Hello and welcome, Glorious Badger here. Just to start off with, you can see me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Glorious Badger, where I do stream 3 days a week. We are back to painting the Weirdnob Shaman, and we're going to start off on the poncho with Vallejo game color, gold yellow. We are going to start off with the broadest highlights, putting the color saturation back into the poncho or whatever it is he is wearing. Obviously, it has been washed over with a fairly heavy coat of burnt umber oil wash. So we're now just putting the color back in, brightening him up a little bit. We got a bunch of different yellows to work on. So that is what we are going to do. And in similar kind of steps to the first video in this series, rather than cutting out lots of footage, we're just going to fast forward through chunks of basically footage which I probably would cut out in future videos. So that will, however, I have put in chapters, so you will be able to fast forward to bits that you require. But we're going to be doing the cape first, or poncho. Now we're on to the fast forwarded footage. There is a fair amount of this. I think in future what I am going to be doing is I will be doing the longer format videos specifically for my Patreon at patreon.com/gloriousbadger. And then I will be doing the shorter format versions. Basically, I will cut out all of this fast forwarded footage and just leave the shortened down versions specifically for YouTube. Longer format will remain on Patreon for those that prefer that sort of stuff. But yes, we're just working the colors back in. We got quite a lot of yellow to go, and we are going to be doing the smoke along with the base on the next video. So it's just the cape, his flesh, any bits of sort of ivory, and his whatever that is, that skirt. A bit of turquoise fabric he's got around his lower half. That is the main focus of today's video. And also, the other main focus is ideally the miniature. Occasionally, no doubt we'll end up completely off camera and potentially even out of focus as a little bonus. This is one of the older videos I've recorded, so I do have probably another 7 videos of older footage. Of older miniatures, I should clarify. But I am going to turn them all into videos because it would be a shame to waste all of it. I am in the process of recording new stuff on hopefully a different format. Well, we're just going to have to really see. If there's stuff you like, if you don't like, please let me know in the comments. I will do my best to read everything. I'll take on board as much as I can and see if I can action any of it. However, so that's where we are now. We're back in the regular speed footage. We're going to break out the Ushabti bone. I did this in a slightly weird order, but there we go. And I've also got Screaming Skull and Ivory. I am pondering, I don't know if I'm going to be using that quite now, but we will see. So the Ushabti bone. We're going to work on all of the skulls, the tusks, the dropping the miniature, well done. The thing that the smokers are coming out of, I don't know what you would call it, but that needs to get re-ivoried as well. But for now, we're going to work on the skull, which I'm just about painting on camera. Just about. And just going to try and bring back these colors where the light will be hitting from above. Now, as I've said before, I will not be doing OSL in this miniature. I don't really do huge amounts of it. Once in a while, I will. But generally, I avoid it. I'm not entirely keen on it, so that's basically my reason for it. However, so we're going to work on the skulls. All the upward-facing surfaces of these tusks. I'm going to try... see those sort of horizontal lines along the length of the tusk. I want to try and keep those bright. We want to keep that dark umber in the sort of grooves, though. This miniature has lots of bones on it, so... And his teeth. What about his teeth? And we will, in fact, I think, be breaking out this colour again when we get around to doing the flesh tones. But that won't be quite yet, so... No need to worry there. It is all on my wet palette. I would, in future, like to get a wet palette camera, but that is going to have to... We'll have to wait a little bit. Quite often, I end up using just an old kitchen tile, which I've had for 20 years now, in fact. Still using the same one. Just clean it off every so often, cover it in boiling water to get rid of the paint, and it's good as new. We are still in the fast-forwarding footage. Trying to pick out those sort of upper-facing surfaces. I should probably... I don't know if I do this, but I should probably do like a bit of bounce light from the ground. Not necessarily reflecting the color of the ground, but a bit of illumination on the undersides of the skulls. This is some old footage, so I don't entirely know if I do that. Looking back at this miniature, I am thinking it's probably definitely something I would do now. However, this was a different badger, so I don't entirely remember. However, we're working on this larger skull thing at the moment. I'm assuming it's a sort of troll or something. Or was. Gonna redefine a few shapes. Right there. Little skulls there. Lovely jubbly. And this larger bone here on the back of the staff. There we go. And also the bit of the skull up here needs a bit of shapes. There we go. Pretty happy with that. And yeah, okay. Right, we're going to move on to the next color in a second, which is going to be Citadel Lair color. Screaming Skull, as you can see. If you don't have that, just add a bit of ivory to the previous color. That's basically all it is. And you're good to go. So we're going to start punching in some slightly smaller highlights on all of these skulls. Down here, sort of ones which are facing upwards. I think definitely looking back at it, the previous color, I should have added a bit of bounce light on the underside of the skulls. And just left it at that, not highlighted any further beyond that point. But I think next time I get around to painting this miniature, I would definitely do my best to try and remember that. Hindsight is a lovely thing. That is for sure. So we're just painting all these little skulls with this slightly brighter color. And it looks like we're into fast forward, so we're just going to quickly whiz through all of this. Might even remember to paint it on camera as well. Come on. Well done. Marvelous. Okay, so, and yeah, so all of these sort of upward facing bits where the light might hit it. It's basically going to get some more of the Screaming Skull. I can't remember if I do... I don't believe I do the Ivory stage at this point. Definitely something that I have to do, though. So making sure we're getting all the teeth, all that sort of stuff. Getting all the little points of interest on this miniature. Yeah, as I said before, the OSL is something I avoided, or I was not in a rush to do the smoke. I think in future I may attempt to do like OSL from the smoke onto the top of the miniature. But for now, we'll be doing the skin. We'll be adding a bit more colour into the skin. We're going to use a sort of pinkish beige sort of colour. Well, Cadian Fleshtone, in fact. We're going to make sure we get the lips. The lower lips, certainly. The nose. Some of the flesh around the cheeks. We're going to get the backs of the hands. Sort of calves. Sort of fleshy bits. And also bits which are going to be where skin tightens, so the backs of the hands, like over the knuckles, along the finger bones, the toes, if I can remember to do that. But yeah, both the fleshier bits, but also where the skin tightens and gets thin. Where it gets thinner, i.e. right there where I'm painting, I would like to go a lot paler. That is the plan. Whether or not I stick to the plan, that is the question. However, so we're going to make sure we add a bit of colour into the fingers, the wrists, feet. I'm hoping I remember. Yeah, we did get that hand. Well done. The forearm. Now, I do believe I forget to paint the sort of chest area right now. I do go back to it later, but right now I don't think I paint it. It was a bit of a faux pas, and I feel absolutely terrible. Frightfully sorry. There we go. We do get the bit of the calf there. It's pretty majestic. It's quite a rough paint. Like with the oil washes, I have a sense that I can be a bit more messy, a bit more loose with the paint. I'm not so concerned. Whereas if I was doing a sort of display level miniature, I would not be quite so loose with the paint. Let's go with that phrase. I'll just put this miniature down. Do I know why? No. No idea. Rightfully sorry. Adding a bit more Cadian Fleshtone. I'm getting the shoulder blade area, back bit. Get the forearm again. Yeah, so I remember I used to paint orcs just with various shades of green, and they always look slightly weird to me. I can't remember whose video it was I watched a couple of years ago. But they added some sort of color which wasn't green, and it sort of completely changed my outlook on it. So, Ushabti bone. Now, I'm hoping this just goes over the backs of the knuckles, the wrists, I suppose a bit of the cheekbone, the feet, like the ankle bits, and hopefully not sort of the fattier bits, i.e. the backs of the calves or the lips, because this is supposed to be where the skin has tightened over sort of the bones underneath it, and it's supposed to be thin and etc. However, I know that was not the case. I do actually highlight, I think, the calves, which is You know, hindsight is 2020. See, there we go. Back of the calves like an idiot. However, it's all right. It's not the end of the world. I'm still liking how it's looking pretty much at the moment. I am remembering to paint a bit of. I think this might in fact be Cadian Fleshtone. I might. Yes, this is Cadian Fleshtone. I remember to paint his torso. Thankfully, we are adding a bit of color there. Making sure we paint the 6-pack. Ready to go down to the bodybuilding competitions. Oh, Sotek green and Temple Guard blue. It looks like we'll be painting the skirt thing. I don't know what else. Kilt? Whatever. Whatever this thing he's wearing around his waist. We are going to start slapping on some Sotek green on all of the sort of surfaces that are facing upwards. Slightly off camera, unfortunately. However, it's all right because I've just told you where the paint's going. I am looking at getting an auxiliary camera for a sort of other angle. However, at the moment, this is what we have to deal with. I have about 7 more videos of older I have about 7 more videos, and I am not going to throw away that footage. So we will make do for the moment. However, Sotek green. So we are making sure we get all of those sort of upward-facing bits and pieces. Looks like we are into the fast-forwarded footage. Right now. Lovely jubbly. It is a nice colour. So it's not a colour I use too often, in fact. It's I must remember that it does exist in the future. There we go, making sure we get all those surfaces. Leaving a fair amount in the shadow, which is fine. It's with the style that I'm going for in this miniature. I don't really have an orc army, so I'm not too fussed about orcs sort of fitting in with other miniatures that I've painted. Adding a bit more of that, bit more saturation to those colours. Working in multiple thin layers. You can always add more. Waiting for each individual layer to dry before we add more on there. There we go. And now we're moving over to Temple Guard blue. Well, now you get to look at the smoky bit that we're not doing in this video. That is going to be on next video. Alright. I do have to remember that I put the colour, certainly in these videos, down the left-hand corner of the video. So I must remember to actually sort of paint all that space over there. Look at it. Full load of space. Go on. Go on. No. It's going to be cramped down in this corner for a bit. But making sure we are painting on the previous colour in even thinner, narrower band. There we go. Nice and easy. I will say, if you've made it this far, folks, I do have an Instagram, instagram.com/gloriousbadger. Twitter, twitter.com, Twitter. Twitter.com/gloriousbadger. Also have a Twitch, twitch.tv/gloriousbadger, and Patreon, patreon.com/gloriousbadger. Right, just swiftly moving on. Progressing with this colour. Wondering if there's anything else. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that second camera angle is definitely going to be a good move. I do have to, talking about moving, I am going to be, house is currently up for sale, so I will be moving. Once I get to the new place, whenever that is, getting another camera for a sort of reverse camera angle is definitely going to be on the agenda. And potentially, as I said earlier, a palette cam. However, sulfuric yellow, going to add a bit more saturation into the yellow poncho. So we got this color. It's P3. I'm a big fan. And we got 2 more yellows after this for final sort of highlights and things. The sulfuric yellow, in fact, I use this for glazing into some skin tones when I'm doing some sort of sunlight from above as well. But in this particular case, we're just using it to increase the sort of yellow highlights. I'm going to stipple that on a little bit. Just like that. Might even get rid of this lower third. In fact, I will get rid of this lower third. It's right in the way. Absolutely majestic. Well done. Slightly irritating. I do apologize. I am getting better. So the old 7 videos I've got to make, the sort of 7 other miniature painting videos I got to make, they might all suffer from this. However, after that, I've changed my recording method, and hopefully that will, we're not going to have this anymore. Slightly irksome, but this is a Vallejo model color golden yellow. Almost the final highlights for these little bits and pieces. In fact, I have tried this color for my 40k Imperial Fists, but the yellow shade I thought was slightly too pale. It is a lovely color, but it just didn't seem quite right for the Imperial Fists. In fact, we used Vallejo game color gold yellow in the end. All right, that's looking pretty good. Just get a couple more of these edges. As I've said before, I do try and do the majority of the highlights above the waist, upper torso area. Just to sort of draw the eye up towards the face. At least that's my general thinking. Sometimes I completely forget to do it. And I get too involved in something else. There we go. It's a nice bright colour, so we should be looking in that direction anyway. Adding a bit more of this yellow in. Sort of improve these wrinkles, creases. Add definition, contrast, all of that sort of fun stuff. There we go. This is another fast forwarded section. I completely forgot to paint these things, so I'm adding a bit of yellow in right now. Just a hint of it. I'm not going to go completely bananas with it, but just towards the sort of upper little bits and pieces. I'm going to add a bit of yellow there. There we go. We're rapidly approaching almost the final stage of the cloak and the yellow bits. And that is with Vallejo Model color, ice yellow. Going to be our sort of final brightest highlights on any of these yellow bits and pieces that we want to do. I'm just putting it onto the wet palette, or indeed the kitchen tile that I use. But here we go. So this is, it's got a lot of white in this. We do not want huge amounts of it. So I'm just going to, just along the edge right there, along some of the wrinkles. Hopefully I'm not going to go absolutely bananas with this color. Trying not to do huge amounts of it. Stippling it on. Get there in the end. Just on the very sort of upper surface. There we go. Are we going to go anywhere else with this? I don't think we are. Are we? Don't believe I am. Oh God, I'm not. I haven't. Oh yes, I am. Just a couple of tiny little bits and pieces on some of the poncho bits. Just up there. That will get us to an end stage for the poncho, the flesh and his the sort of skirt, and indeed the staff. The smoke right there is going to be done along with the base and potentially those little fabric bits in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.